The year is 520 BC. After decades of exile, the Hebrew people had been allowed to return to Jerusalem. But the city and temple lay in ruins, and the exiles wonder, is God done with them? Does their covenant story have a future? When will God finally destroy their enemies and restore Jerusalem, as promised by the earlier prophets? To encourage them and remind them of His promises, God sends a new group of messengers to speak to His people. First, the prophet Haggai explains that the famine and crop failure the people are experiencing is a punishment from God for prioritizing the rebuilding of their own homes over the rebuilding of His temple. But Haggai also encourages them to trust that God has not forgotten King David, nor the promises for a future king from his line. Next comes the prophet Zechariah, echoing the earlier themes of Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel. God will renew the dynasty of King David and will remove the false leaders of His people. After a time of deep suffering and defeat for Israel, God will return to purify and rescue the nation. The Lord's kingdom will surely come, and with it, the defeat of evil and the establishment of Jerusalem as the epicenter of God's rule. Both Haggai and Zechariah warn that the coming of this messianic kingdom is dependent upon the covenant faithfulness of God's people. God's promises are not a blank check. The short books of Joel and Malachi underline this same message. Both prophets reuse the intense imagery of the day of the Lord, a time of terrible worldwide judgment against all evil, injustice, and idolatry. The prophet Joel, however, introduces a powerful plot twist. God will show mercy on anyone who calls on His name. Even more shockingly, God plans to pour out His Spirit on all people, not just the covenant people of Israel. This radical worldwide expansion of God's love and mercy is the central point of the most unusual book of all the prophets, Jonah. Unlike all the other prophets, Jonah himself says very little in the book that bears his name. Instead, this short book focuses on the famous story about Jonah. He tries to run from his assignment, spends a 3-day residence inside a large fish, and then only reluctantly preaches in Nineveh, leading to the dramatic repentance of the pagan city. From beginning to end, this story subverts the reader's expectations. Jonah acts nothing like the ideal prophet, avoiding God and rejecting His mission. It is the wicked and idolatrous Ninevites who respond with humble repentance to God's warnings. This upsets Jonah, who would rather die than see God's mercy extended to Israel's enemies. But God reveals that His mission of love and restoration reaches out to all peoples and His entire creation. And so, the message of the prophets comes to a close, not with a period, but with question marks. How will God fulfill His remarkable promises? When will the Messianic kingdom finally come? Are the people of God ready for the mercy and love of God to push beyond the boundaries of Israel into the whole world? The stage is set for the next chapter in the story.